G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Kalynn Crump from ReBLOOM Flower Recycling in beautiful Toronto, Canada. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Troy. I'm super excited to see you. Well, sort of see you.
Yeah, and how we know each other, Peter, our podcast editor, reached out and asked you to come on the cast, so I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Of course. Thank you. I'm so glad that Peter reached out.
Well, tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Sure. It's a two-part question there.
Yep.
So my flower business is a flower recycler. So we recycle event flowers from conferences, weddings, massive events. So think like TED Talks, mobile phone launches, you name it. And we recycle their flowers. We create smaller bedside table arrangements, and then we donate them to a charity of your choice. So it could be a hospice, a hospital, a cancer treatment center, a lot of shelters like women's and men's shelters, you name it, we donate to it. And then we come back a week later and we recollect the flowers for composting. And that's just because of the damage that flowers do to our environment when we just throw them out in the trash and we don't compost them. And from that, we create soil and we donate that soil back to a community garden or landscaper. So it completes the loop of the life cycle of the flower.
It's a terrific idea because I assume in the past conferences and events, they'd just be throwing those flowers out. There's no real thought to. So people are getting a second use of, the beauty of those flowers. And secondly, you're handling them best for the environment.
Well, it's so that flowers aren't enjoyed for hours, but they're enjoyed for a week or more, depending on how well you take care of them. And that was actually the basis of the business and how I figured out how to do it, which I'm sure is going to be a question of yours coming up. But how we make money is, which I swear it's probably like the second question I get asked all the time because we are a for-profit company.
Yep.
So we do make money. We employ a lot of people. We have to make money in order to employ all of those people. I wish I could pay them in hugs, but it doesn't work that way. So the company that hires us, so say it's a mobile company or a conference, they pay us to come and collect the flowers and repurpose them for them. Right. So that's how we make our money. But everybody gets paid. It's not volunteer. It's Out
of interest then, if a company, a corporate is paying you, do you let them know what carbon you've saved and that goes into their move towards carbon neutral? Is that becoming a thing these days?
Slowly in Canada, it is becoming one. We're not there yet to have that adequate reading of what we're looking for. We can only weigh what we're taking in from the conference. So that's how we know how many tons of florals that we're saving from a landfill. Yep. So when we go into a hotel, we're able to weigh all the flowers before they get onto the truck and they get out to the studio for repurposing.
Yep.
So we have no way of doing that, unfortunately, right now, but hopefully, technology will change and that will change.
And tell our audience how you started out.
So I also own another company. It's called Top Shelf PR, and we are a PR and marketing, experiential marketing company in Canada. Well, we're actually, Top Shelf is North American, but we primarily focus in Canada. And through all of the brand launches that we were doing, I just kept seeing all of these flowers being thrown out. And what actually happens was when all the guests leave, and this is the same for private events and weddings, the flowers are just simply picked up out of the vase, put on the table, and the florist takes the vase back because it's rented and they leave. Well, those flowers have only been there for like 4 hours or 5 hours. And the events people are just like rolling the tables out because they've got to get ready for the next event or whatever they have. And I was like, well, where do all of these flowers go? And we were finding out that they were being thrown in the dumpster bin behind the venue. And I was like, there's got to be a better solution to this. So then I just started researching, like, we're already such huge composters here in Canada for food waste.
Yep.
And I was like, there's got to be something for floral waste, because what do all the flower shops do after Mother's Day, Easter, all of those big events? And I found out that they all just get thrown out, and they actually create CH4 gas, which is a methane, which is 28 times more potent than carbon dioxide, which a lot of people don't know. And this is what's contributing to smog, worsening health problems, asthma, all of those things. And I thought, well, that's so silly, because they're such a natural product. There has to be a way that we can take them, repurpose them, bring them back into the community, bring joy to people who feel they've been forgotten, and then compost them and create soil. So you're creating more beauty. And so I tested it out with a couple of senior homes in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, because I thought, well, I'll just try it out and see if this is something that people would pay for. And I did it for free at the start. And it just took off like gangbusters. It was just amazing. And our mission and what we were doing spread like wildfire throughout Canada. So our growth probably in year 3 was exponential. It was bananas.
So there was no one already doing this?
There have been a few pop-ups. That's something I did want to talk about, because I think that there's a need to talk about competitor space. And I'm okay with competitor space, because at the end of the day, it means less waste, more joy, and creating soil. So it's better for the environment. So instead of taking the stance of how dare you copy me, how dare you, do the exact same thing I'm doing and price cut me, instead I tried to take a more passionate lens to it and think, you know what, at the end of the day, if it's doing the environment and bringing people joy, then that's what matters. But there have been pop-ups, but no one does the sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. No one does the composting. So they'll come and they'll collect the flowers, and they might repurpose them, but they don't compost. And that's the biggest thing. That's our driver with why you hire us, is because we're a zero waste business. Zero.
Yeah, great. But more competitors just brings more awareness to this process, which is phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the lens you have to take when you look at it, is like, instead of being like, really? Instead I'm like, okay, we were a trailblazer and you guys just get to help bring joy.
Have you considered expanding into other countries or even franchising the idea?
I have not. No, I have been asked multiple times. The only client, we have a private members only club that we work with, that for all of their events that they do in North America, we handle the repurposing of all of their flowers, but they're the only ones that we work with in the US. It's because Canada is manageable, and I'm from Canada. I understand the landscape. The US is a behemoth.
Yes, 52 different countries.
One state to the next, you're dealing with 2 different psycho and demographics. So it's just not something I'm interested in.
But would it make sense to franchise it so that someone on the ground knows their state or their country and they can deal with all that, and you can give them the processes and the marketing and, and the back office support?
We have thought about that for sure. But to be honest, I would just rather give them that intellectual property.
Yep.
Like that's the whole point of being entrepreneurial business owners is sharing your your wins and your losses, and that's really what in my opinion is what it should be. It's not like I thought of some sort of genius idea that I have to own. I really want people to be doing this in England and Australia and New Zealand, and I know that there are places similar to what we do. I'm not saying that they copied us by any means, but if there was any way that I could help them out to figure out, the composting and,
Yep.
the way that you can manage your business that way, I would rather just you reach out. I don't need to make money from it.
Yeah, great. And with the methane generation, you don't capture that. Like there's methane processing or capturing plants. A lot of landfill, for example, they do capture the methane that's generated. That's not something you've gone more down the soil path.
Well, yeah, that's the number one thing behind what we do is I don't care who you buy your flowers from. If you hire us or not, that's fine. That's up to you. We provide a premium level of service. So you should hire us.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't, that's okay. Just make sure your flowers are recycled, like not in the recycling bin, in the compost bin when the event is done. We have photos of dumpster bins filled to the brim with flowers. And it's just ridiculous because do you know what kind of smiles you would get if you donated that to a senior's home?
Yeah.
Or to someone who truly feels like they're forgotten, like no one cares, their family doesn't visit or what have you. And you show up with this beautiful little arrangement and they're over the moon.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. It's like a hand over heart experience when you hand someone flowers and you see that speckle in their eye and they smile and and every day they smell those flowers guaranteed. So that's really what it's also about upon saving the environment from methane, CH4 gas.
Great. And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business?
Yes. So we started in 2014. And I'm just going to be straight up. That was a joke of a year.
First year always is.
Yeah. So it was really hard to we had our eye on wedding couples. We were focusing on the amount that wedding couples spend on their florals. And that was a huge mistake for us. Because wedding couples are always being nickel and dimed over everything.
Yep.
And it was just a huge mistake. So we burned a lot of man hours and time trying to figure out the process and the way it would roll. So 2014 was just, is this even going to work out or is it not? Like, I don't even know. Plus, we didn't also have this amazing movement that we have now across the world, which is this removing the single-use straight to landfill.
It's really gained momentum, hasn't it, in the last few years?
Oh my gosh. So in 2018, we started to see momentum. So we saw 125% growth.
Wow.
In 2018, 2019, we saw a 300% growth.
Right.
Because that's when all of the articles were coming out about saving the oceans, removing plastics, our ozone layer, climate change, what we were doing. We had celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio talking about the ozone layer and climate change. And that was hugely a monumental moment for my company. And then, of course, the pandemic hit.
Yep.
So in 2020, we had projected amazing sales and percentage of growth. But then it was like in 1 week, we were this, I remember this distinctly. It was March 2020. And I had just come back from New York, where I started to kind of see like what was going on. And I got every cancellation from March to October. That's how far booked out we were.
Wow.
From March to October, every single event, every wedding, everything was canceled. And it was just like, holy smokes. In like 4 days, my business has been decimated. And I thought about it for a while, because a lot of the shelters really rely on us for those donations. Like for Mother's Day, here in Canada, it's in May, and we always donate to women's shelters. That's so that great. They have something nice, to come into. It's a program we offer called Make One, Give One.
Yep.
And all of the shelters were contacting me saying, can we expect a little bit of joy from ReBLOOM here, or is this a no-go? And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to take the workshops virtually. So we did the Make One, Give One virtually. So you got to buy your ticket, and for every ticket purchased, we would donate a bouquet to different shelters based on the city that you were in.
Yep.
And the other thing that people don't think about is that it transcends. It's not just my business, but think about those generational flower growers who were growing flowers all winter to get ready for this season. And then all of a sudden, the exact same thing that happened to me happened to them.
Yeah.
Where it's like, those 300 weddings you were doing this summer that you were growing flowers for, bye.
Yep.
They're gone. And so it was, what are they going to do with the surplus of the flowers? So we pivoted quickly, and we just started creating online workshops. And so everything is done virtually now. Even to this day, it's still virtual. We don't do we call it the collection to compost, where we collect, repurpose, compost. We don't do any of that since, over a year ago now. And we only do workshops, online workshops. And and I always feel really bad saying this, because so many people are struggling, and but we thrived. I'll just say that.
Wow.
We thrived in 2020 because we sold way more tickets than we ever expected. It was a logistical nightmare, don't get me wrong.
I bet.
Yeah. But we thrived because we were able to pivot so quickly, but also because people were stuck at home. Remember, that was only like 6 weeks into at least in Canada, our pandemic lockdown, and everyone was dying for something to do.
They'd be sent a kit of flowers, and then they could arrange their own bouquet, learn how to do it.
Yeah, so they log in with me. It's live Q&A. I always have a host, so she can field the questions, so I can just focus on making the arrangements. And she'll ask me the questions as they come in, but we deliver everything you need to your home. And it was really nice, because if you had, say, your mom or your best friend in another state or province, and you're in the web technology platform that we used allowed you to log in with me and have me on the screen, while also having you and your...
Oh, that's terrific. What a great idea.
Yeah, your partner. So that you guys could have a private conversation where you could be like,
wow,
what is Caitlin doing? Why is she moving so fast?
That's amazing.
And you can have that conversation with someone else, and while still listening to me. So it really created this amazing platform that we, to this day, still use.
What was the tech platform you used to be able to do that, out of interest?
I don't know. All right.
That's all right.
I know it was some specific webinar, but we outsourced that.
Yeah.
I don't pretend to be the genius of all things, if only a few, but no, we hire that out. I know my limits, and I play within it.
Good.
So that's actually one of the biggest things I learned with ReBLOOM was even though I own a PR company, I should be able to do my own PR. But I realized I was
too close to it.
Yes, but also the rock in the middle of the pathway, where it was like, I'm so busy facilitating all of my PR clients with my team that when it came time to ReBLOOM, I was like, I'm too tired. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to work on it.
So
right
what did
now.
you do? Give it to another PR firm or just internally?
I did.
Yeah, right. Wow.
I did, which is so funny because everybody always asks and they're like, why would you do that? And I said, because as a small business owner, you have to understand when it's time to step out of the way.
Yep.
Sure, you wear multiple hats, but you have to know your limits. You have to know when it's time. And I tell you, the moment I hired them, it was a game changer.
Right. That's a really good piece of advice.
We were doing 9 interviews a week. It was bananas. And it's stuff I just didn't have time for, except for just doing the interviews. So it was really great. So that was definitely a big learning curve for me, because I like to think that I can do it all, but I clearly cannot.
Any other numbers on illustrate the growth? So number of team members, full-time equivalents from start to even pre-COVID, if the numbers went down?
I was really fortunate that I was able to keep all 3 full-time employees.
Yep.
So I've kept them, and they really are the ones who run the ship. They're the ones who handle the inquiries, the day-to-day. And although I can check in and see how things are going, we have a call every 2 weeks. We have a team of over 300 people across Canada, but those are shift workers. So it's when we have to go do a pickup in the middle of nowhere, interior BC, we don't want those florals to go to waste. We're also very conscious of our carbon emission and our gas that we're using, in order to get to them. So we do have to say no sometimes, but those people are shift workers for us. And so we pay them hourly.
Yep.
And we were able to retain our whole staff. In fact, the 300 part-time people, they constantly ask, what can we do to help? How do we tell more people about the services? What can we do to amplify this? Which is super kind, but that's what creates the ReBLOOM family, which we really worked on. And when that week in March that I was mentioning, in 2020, everybody was just like, do I still have a job? Am I still working? And you wanted to create that sense of calm for them and just be an oasis in a time of such turbulence.
Yep.
So we subscribed, everybody got a Calm app. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it. It's just called Calm. It's a meditation app. And we subscribed everybody to it. And we created an internal office challenge. So even and our full-time, when we do our status calls every 2 weeks, we would compare a leaderboard, who had meditated the most.
Right.
And it was just really bringing that sense of calm into knowing we're still here. We've pivoted. We'll still be here. It just has a different lens.
Yep.
But it's still going to be here. But we're really excited that, as I mentioned earlier, 93 tons of flower waste have been diverted from landfills. This is just in Canada.
Yep.
And over 150,000 bouquets donated since 2014.
Oh, well done. That's terrific.
Thank you.
With the 300 contractors, just trying to get a feel for what the full-time equivalents, would most contractors do on average 20 hours a week, 10 hours a week?
So we have 3 different shifts. So it depends on which one you're on, whether you're on collection, repurposing, or delivery. So it all changes. So I would say probably anywhere from 10 to 15 hours for part-timers.
Great.
And our full-time are around 40 to 42.
Yep. So if you were to take those 300, even at 10 hours a week, that's 75 full-time equivalents in there. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. And we, our full-timers, everybody knows, you just sometimes have to work weekends.
Yep. Yep.
because not every event can be on a Tuesday.
No, that's right. Yeah. Well, that's amazing growth. Was it yourself just starting out like part-time, I guess, on this idea?
So what's interesting is I was thinking about this earlier because I haven't thought about it in such a long time, but whenever you start out a new company or even when you're starting out, you always think you need someone else. You need someone else to help. And I'm not talking business coaches or mentors or anything like that. I'm talking like you want to be in it with someone else. Like someone else is also in the hot seat with you. And I did bring on someone that I thought I needed. And then within probably 4 months of being in it, I realized you're not really contributing as much as I thought you should be. And she also had different priorities, so it was a little different. So that was a big key learning for me was starting out was I personally thought I couldn't do it alone.
Yep.
And I can't put my finger on it. I don't know why. I just thought I couldn't, that I needed someone else with maybe a different background set, skill set or something. And then I quickly realized that I was just bringing way more to the table than she was. And so we amicably parted ways.
Yep.
And then it was just so much easier doing it on my own, not feeling like I needed to check in with someone or double check something. Instead, it was like my gut telling me, no, this is right. This is what we should do. I don't need to double check the font of our logo with someone. Like I can make those decisions on my own. And so that was a really big thing. So I did start out with someone. They did not have any financial investment. I covered everything. That was something I took on. So her leaving was pretty clean, which I feel really lucky for because I've heard some really horrific.
It can go to shit, that's for sure.
Especially when two people believe in the same thing and they see the promise and now they're not allowed on the island anymore. Like it can go sideways pretty quickly. So I'm really glad that that didn't happen.
So if you were both part-time in this, so together maybe one full-time equivalent between the two of you when you started?
Oh, no. I think when we started, she was part-time. I was full-time.
Okay.
On top of also doing my full-time job with Top Shelf. But I have such a great team. I have such a great team here. So it was just really easy to let them know, like the Top Shelf team, I'm starting a new business. I'm doing something new. I need you to carry the weight a little bit more than you're usually used to.
Great. When was the moment you felt like you'd succeeded?
I would definitely say 2018 for sure. We started to see companies really start to take sustainability and environmental factors like at the forefront. They really started to recognize it's really important to be the good in the world. And that's the way the future is going to be, period. And you really started to see that shift. I don't know if you guys noticed this where you are, but we removed all plastic straws.
It's really just starting here now in Australia this year, actually.
So we've been doing it for a few years now, but it was really noticing that change. And so we started getting calls from, larger corporations. And that's where we made the shift in the business. Was instead of going after wedding couples, we started going after corporations because they had the larger budget to spend on.
And also just better economies of scale. There's a lot more flowers there to collect in one spot.
Totally. So we really started to see it. And that's where you start to see the shift from 2017 to 2018, that that serious growth between our baseline to 125%. And then, the fact that in 2019 we were 300%. And then in 2020, we started getting booked up from January to October for 2020 in September of 2019.
Yep.
And that was conferences, TED Talks, all of those like massive brand launches, all of those things happening. And yeah, it was huge for us. So we were on our way, and hopefully 2022 we'll get back to the way we were in 2019.
Yep. And what does success look like to you?
Joy. For people to not feel forgotten, to know that even if you're in a room and you're by yourself and we come in and give you flowers, that you're loved, that we love you, even though we don't know you. But that is success for me, is definitely giving back to the community that has given me so much, given all of us so much, and seeing that. I know that that's cheesy. It doesn't really come down to dollars and cents for me for this. And it's not like I have, a pile of money behind me that I'm just like waiting to use. It's just, that's what drives our business. That's what creates the ReBLOOM family, is knowing at the end of the day, you have to be doing good in order to give back to your community and feel good about yourself. That makes you hop out of bed in the morning.
Yep, absolutely. One of my favorite TED Talks, actually, it's in the top 10 downloaded. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but Why by Simon Sinek.
Oh, yes. Yes. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say, not in the most eloquent way.
Yeah.
But that's your why. Right?
Yep.
Like what is making you hop out of bed in the morning? What's giving you your passion to want to answer those arbitrary emails and feel like you're treating the random wedding couple along with the $1 trillion corporation industry the exact same.
Yep.
So that they know that they're getting the best service from us no matter what. Because at the end of the day, we are in the service business. Like ReBLOOM is in the service industry. So it's all about that. The one bad pickup, the one bad donation, the one anything will really taint our reputation. And that's all we have when we're small business owners.
Yep. Good question for you, owning a PR firm. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Don't get business cards.
I've never heard that one. It's so 80s, isn't it?
Someone handed me a business card the other day, and I was like, number one, I don't want to touch it.
Yep.
Because of COVID.
Yeah.
And number two, I was like, who seriously... So like just tap my phone. Like we don't need to do that. So that would be number one. The next one would be a great website.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if it's a landing page or if it's a 3-tab site, home, about, services. That's it. You don't need to go all over the place.
Oh, fancy.
Also, less copy is more. As we progress, all of the emails, the amount of touch points that we have with every single thing that we see when we log onto our computer, when we walk down the street, when we're looking or streaming on our phone, those are so many information touch points that we just don't need. So when I get an email where, say, a media outlet is pitching something and they're wondering if one of our clients is interested in being on it, and it's like a page or 2 paragraphs. If you can't give me the top line details in 4 sentences, I probably won't read it.
There's an acronym I learned years ago that the US Navy used called BLUF, bottom line, up front. Say in the first line, what is it that you're after? And then you can add a bit more after that, but otherwise the message gets lost in the thesis.
in the copy. I used to always say this to my team when I worked at an agency that I was a director at. And because, like you were saying, they gave a thesis, a background, like the whole thing. And I would just say, can you just top line it for me? Just top line it. I just need like 3 or 4 sentences of the situation, the challenge, and the solution, or are we figuring out the solution? Like, tell me what we're working on. But so that less is more. Less is absolutely more. Because if they're interested, if you've hooked them with those couple of sentences, they will reach out. They will contact you. I got a message on LinkedIn. I get a lot of them, and for some reason, really lately, from Los Angeles, and I don't know why. I must be on some list of some sort. And she said, I've sent you 2 messages already. I guess you're not interested. So long.
Jeez.
Like, so long as in goodbye.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I didn't respond to you because you literally sent me a thesis that you would write for university. Like, so
it's something
less is more.
It's something I've really come to appreciate in the last 10 years is the power of copy or copywriting. It is such a skill. And really, I read David Ogilvy's book, An Advertising Man, I think it was called, about 10 years ago, just the power of copy, especially in the 50s, 60s, with TV coming on and print ads, etc. Just how important the words you use. And also, was it Churchill that said, I wish I had longer to write a shorter letter?
Yes. And even if you're so right, because if you look at Ogilvy and they did the very first like Volkswagen campaign.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
And look at how simple it was, right? Like you got it right away and you wanted in. Yeah. You wanted to engage and you wanted to see more and try to get into that a little bit more for sure. But yeah, less is more, absolutely.
And how did you fund ReBLOOM?
Through Top Shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the money, it's all self-funded. So the money we made from Top Shelf, the money I made, not that it came through the company because Top Shelf doesn't own ReBLOOM, but the money I made from ReBLOOM and paying myself a salary paid for ReBLOOM because it wasn't something I was willing to go into debt for until I knew it was a proven model that could actually work. And I'm so happy that in 2016, 2017, like early parts of 2017, I didn't take out a loan. And I didn't take on debt when I didn't know if it could actually work.
That's wise. That's very good.
And I hung on. And that was the biggest thing, like hang on as long as you can, because success doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and nurturing. And I always say this, it's like the soil. Just because you throw soil down and a couple of seeds in doesn't mean that they're going to grow. It means like love and kindness and tenderness and light and all sorts of things. And that's what a new business needs. I know I'm taking a very softy approach, but it's because it's how we have built the company so that everybody feels nurtured and loved. And that even includes all of our clients. So even if we have a wedding couple that gets married, they work for an oil company, for example, who are trying to make big changes. And they always hire us because they had an amazing experience. And that's really important, is creating that experience. So, yeah.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
100%.
Yeah. It's the joy factor, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We are dealing in a completely different landscape than we were 2 years ago, 4 years ago. Absolutely 100%. The floral industry is $1 trillion industry. There's no reason why people cannot step up, create their own company, following the same model or making their own. Because as long as we give back to people, create joy and the environment, you've got a home run. Every corporation will sign up for it in a heartbeat.
If only you could measure. If only you could measure hugs and smiles and put that on your dashboard for your KPIs.
I know, right? I know. We have so many. I really long for the day where we get to hug them again and shake hands and actually have that moment where you hand them the flowers and see that. That would be, you know what, we'd be in the trillions, Troy. We'd be in the trillions.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
I know this is a cliche, but never take no for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So when we first started, when I approached corporations, because remember, I had the PR side. So I was already working with all of these very large corporations, and they just didn't see the value in sustainability yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so they love the idea, but as soon as they found out there was a cost associated with it, they were like, thanks, but no thanks.
Right.
Maybe next year when our budgets are a little lighter, like, you know, so it was, I can't tell you how many no's I got. And it's so hard not to take that personally and let it hit your ego.
Yep.
So yeah, never take no for an answer. Just if you believe in it, they will eventually believe in it. And that's the most important thing, is that you have to be passionate about what you're doing, and it will come. I am a walking cliche right now. I feel like I'm one of those like posters that you put on like on the wall where it's like, hang in there.
Yeah, the kitten
and
hanging
it's like
off
a cat hanging off the tree. Yeah, no. I know that would be my biggest thing. Also, the other thing I learned was evaluate the landscape. That's really important. Knowledge is power. So find out who else is out there doing potentially the same thing and how you can make it different. Because it's not about emulating. It's about doing something different that brings you joy, that brings you passion. So I would say, yeah, that's a big one for sure. I think it was Oprah Winfrey that said this. I could be totally mistaken, but she said, it's not about what's in your rear view mirror. It's about what's ahead.
Yep.
So you could be focused on the competitor that popped up, the business partner that decided to take the IP and switch it or tweak it just a little bit. It could be anything, but your eyes should be on the road ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to know what's behind you so you're not caught off guard, but it's also better to just look ahead.
And what area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Awareness,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. We were new to the landscape. No one had ever done what we're doing, at least to my knowledge at the time. Now
because you're not just advertising, marketing, or promoting a business. You also have to create the awareness of a new category.
Yes.
New thing. Mm.
Yeah, because a lot of people would say, oh, I feel so bad. Like I threw it on my wedding flowers. And I was like, why would you ever throw them out?
Yeah.
Like bring them home, take them home, or are you just too wasted to not know that you need to take them home? I don't know. But yeah, that would be a big one for sure. The other one would just be the lifespan.
Yep.
You are dealing with a product that is expiring. So you can acquire it, but you can't take 2 weeks to deal with it. You have to deal with it within hours of acquiring it. So that would be another big one. So whether it's a food product or a flower or a herb or anything like that, like you've got a really short lifespan on that. Yeah. So it's to capitalize on the time that you're given that you have.
What have you enjoyed least about managing the fast growth?
I think at the start, it was the pounding the pavement. It was the knocking on doors, figuratively.
Yep.
And now I would say nothing, because who doesn't want to wake up, play with flowers, and go deliver them to someone who feels forgotten?
Yeah.
No one. No one. Or at least it should be no one. And then cultivating that soil and like mushing it around and seeing the worms do their thing. No, now I would say nothing. But at the start, it was definitely the door shutting that I disliked the most, because it was so, it's like you would get 100 no's and one maybe in a week. And that was really soul crushing.
Yes.
Where I was like, why am I even doing this? I already have a successful business. I don't know why I'm engaging in this.
And what do you love most about growing a small business?
The people, for sure. I'm sure you get that a lot. You probably hear that a lot. Yeah. It's the people. That's how I thrive. That's how any business thrives, is the love and the passion that you have for what you're doing is felt, and people feel it. They know that you're going to step up to the plate. I love it that shelters contact the team and they'll say, we're having a really bad week. You know, XYZ happened. Flowers would really make a big difference right now. And I can call a flower grower, or the team will call a flower grower, and they'll have a surplus of, say, dahlias or daffodils or something. And they're like, sure, come grab them, come take them.
It's great.
And it's not like the team, like the people. We call them the ReBLOOM family because they are family. But it's also everybody we've interacted with who receives the flowers that, that's the best part. I'm telling you, if you ever come to Canada, you'll have to come on a delivery with us.
Yeah, love that.
And you will see, hand over heart, how it will seriously imprint your soul, where you see someone who receives flowers and they're just like, they can't believe it.
I think it's a terrific idea. What's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I think because of the success that I had with Top Shelf, it was so instantaneous, because the agency I had worked for went bankrupt. And so I inherited a lot of those clients. So I never had to go out searching for clients, and my reputation just stood for itself. So it was seeing ReBLOOM launch. You have that moment where you launch your website, you've told your family, you've told your friends about it. You might have told, a couple other maybe business contacts, and you really think the moment you push launch on your website that it's all of a sudden going to be this huge overnight success. And I really did truly think that. And I think it was
Bill Gates said, success is a lousy teacher.
Yeah. Yes. I didn't know that, but I completely agree with it, because it just took so long. We did so many pickups, the compost to collection service. We did so many things for free our first year, that just to get people's awareness and around it. And I was like, really? We're still doing this for free? This is bananas. Like, this isn't a business. This is a nonprofit. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And so I really did think my mindset was, the moment I push launch on the website, we would be up and running and tickety boo. And it was not the case.
Yeah. What is the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Routine. That's a really big one. And especially during COVID, I found that having my routine was really, really important. So that was, and of course, you're being flexible with it, but it's not like you wake up and you don't have a game plan for your day. Monday to Friday, you've got to have your benchmarks, your KPIs, all laid out, and you're ready to rock and roll. Not having a routine will make you feel like you're just a boat looking for a lighthouse. It's just not going to make any sense for you every day. And you're going to feel like you're just searching for that lighthouse and you're never going to find it. Yeah, routine has been key.
Jump over to growasmallbusiness.com and leave your details to get a short 2-minute email I send on Fridays to help small business owners like you become better leaders. I include some reading or professional development resources I've discovered in the last week. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
So for me, I have always believed that it doesn't matter your education. It's beneficial if you're not working in if you're working in like botanicals and, that kind of stuff. But for me, how we add to the ReBLOOM family has always been a feel. So I meet with everyone. I've had the team members, the three, since 2016, I've had the three on the team.
Yep.
And I trust them to know where we want to go, who we want to be, how our company culture will be. And I trust them to choose, the good apples.
Yep.
I'm using air quotes here, but just, I've always gone by feel. It really doesn't matter to me, your education, your past background. If I feel that sense of passion, that you are as committed as I am, or the team is to doing our mission and what we're here to do, then that speaks volumes.
Yep.
We did a program in Calgary, Alberta, where we actually hired men who were in a halfway house. I don't know if that's the same there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they were just down on their luck. They had done some stupid petty theft, got their children taken away from them, had a criminal background record now, couldn't get a job to save their life, even working at like a hardware store or anything. And so we worked with the city of Calgary and we did a program where we hired them part-time because you could see that I could phone this man at 2 a.m. and say, I have an emergency flower pickup. We have that like maybe once every 6 months.
Yeah.
But we have an emergency flower pickup, and I would know that man would be there in a heartbeat, no matter what. Great. And that was really important to us because it didn't matter his background. It was what he was feeling and presenting to us. And you just have a feeling, you just know, everybody knows it. You just have this feeling when you meet someone and you're like, yeah, you're my jam. We're going to get along just fine.
When I talk recruitment, there's two things top of the list that I look for. It's attitude and aptitude. So if they've got the right attitude, and that means also they're a good cultural fit and they're smart, you can train, give them the experience they need to do the job.
Yeah. I just had a friend, and I found this interesting. She's wicked smart, senior director level, perfect for this agency job. And they turned her down because she doesn't have enough automotive experience. And I thought, that is so short-sighted.
Yep.
She can learn. If she's passionate enough about wanting to work for your company and be in that company culture, she's going to learn. It's going to happen. So, yeah.
You're better off having an A player with the right attitude on the team as opposed to a B player that may have the background and experience in that industry sector.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth? Sounds like you have a terrific culture there.
I think your team comes first before you do, always.
Mm-hmm.
So when the pandemic hit, when I started to feel anxious, I was like, well, if I'm feeling it, my team is certainly feeling it. And that's why I signed everybody up for the Calm app and created this, very fun leaderboard, meditation game, we'll call it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that comes first. Like you are nothing without your team.
Yep.
There is no way I could run both companies without, creating this fun company culture.
Yep.
We also we call them, it's not anything new, but Thirsty Thursdays. So we all get on, happy hour.
The friends here in Hobart have got a design studio. They've just started Thirsty Thursdays. When I was in London 15 years ago, well, actually before that, 20 years ago in our web company, we started Final Friday. So we do something on the last Friday of each month with the team. So if you guys head out on a Thursday for drinks?
Yeah. So, now we have to do it virtually, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's been it's been really lovely to connect with local businesses in every city that everybody is in.
Yep.
So that you can send the wine to their home
Mm-hmm.
or like a cocktail making kit, and we send it to their home, and then we all do it together.
Right.
And sometimes I surprise them with like guest hosts.
Yep.
You know, like a famous bartender or someone who's going to take over and do it and just guide us through. So that's been really lovely. But I think the more that you connect with your team, the more they're willing to get up at that 2 a.m., you know, call to go do that delivery or the pickup for you. And really that's what it takes.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Routine.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it sound like I'm on some like crazy schedule. But I work out a lot. So that was really important to me when all of the gyms shut down. It was like, well, how working out was my yoga. Like it was how I was able to sweat out and put back, you know, and be able to balance all of the things that come my way. I would just, again, I know it's a boring answer and I'm sorry, but it's just routine. It's just knowing when to turn off and when to turn on, and not having any issues. Like, for example, today I had to move a meeting, and probably 2016, Kalynn would have been like, I'm so sorry. Something has come up. It's so unfortunate. Is it possible to move this meeting? Whatever. Instead, it's like, I can't make this meeting time. I apologize. We're going to need to reschedule.
Yep.
I appreciate your understanding. Yep. Like, I didn't need to give excuses. It was just like, I've got to deal with other stuff right now that I can't deal with it. So it's really recognizing I can't be everything to everyone all the time. And you really have to have a good inner sense of understanding that in order to, you know, lay that out. Because the moment you respect yourself and your time, the moment that's when other people respect it even more.
Yep. And how much professional development have you invested in yourself over the years?
Well, I think my friends that I surround myself with all contribute to my professional development. I haven't hired a business coach. I'm super blessed to have amazing parents who are entrepreneurs themselves, and they've really guided me. So I think if anything, if any time I had an issue or something, and even though my dad is in his 80s, don't tell him that. He'll be so embarrassed that I made that public. But I just mean, like, he's still like a guiding light, you know, for professional development to a certain degree. I mean, he still calls me when he forgets his password to his Gmail account. But I think it's also I think you start to follow those people that you really admire, like Bill and Melinda Gates.
Yep.
I do admire what Jack Dorsey has created. Marie Forleo. Like, my bookshelves are covered in books of business. So I remember my mom told me a story once where when we were younger, she couldn't afford a therapist or someone to help her through a situation. So she bought books.
Yep.
And she's always ingrained that in us. So even if you can't afford, you know, the $175 an hour or whatever it is, you can always take out a book or buy a book and you know, look at the recommendations and the reviews. But I would really say then that, like, my parents, my friends that I surround myself with, because I think they ramp you up and get you excited, and they're your constant cheerleader, and then books.
Great. That's good. Sounds like you do continually invest in professional development, which is important.
It is. Otherwise, you're stagnant.
That's right. So that answers the next question on mentors and coaches. What about, do you have a board of directors or advisors for ReBLOOM?
I do not. No, it's just me.
All right, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Patience.
Yep.
Seriously, that's it. Plain and simple. You
Yeah.
just have to have patience. It's like watering a plant.
Yep.
Patience.
Absolutely. I was very impatient early on in my business career. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
The Secret Handshake.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
It's a really good one.
Well,
My stepdad gave it to me. I think I was 14
yep.
or 15, maybe. And I was like, why are you giving this to me? And he was like, just read it. It's a really quick, easy, super read. But it really teaches you about, at least for women, not being the shrinking violet
Yep.
in the boardroom. It's about having power behind your voice and knowing that you have a seat at the table.
Yep. Great. Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I really love 99U.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, it's an online kind of education university platform that courses.
Yeah, it's great. I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Yep.
What's the other one I was just listening? Oh, I signed up for masterclass last year.
Yeah, how are you finding that?
I'm actually, I was really trepidatious at first. Have you signed up?
No, I've been looking at it though. Yeah, I'm hearing good
Yeah,
things.
you can do a trial and
Yep.
you can see. And I really love it that it allows you to explore different areas that you didn't even know you may or may not have had an interest in. So,
Yeah.
like what we were talking about earlier with copywriting.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually have like a complete series on copywriting. Or the one I found super interesting was body language.
Yeah, right.
Was reading people's body language and that is super hugely important in business. Well, in anything, but especially in business, where you can read like, have I lost them in this meeting?
Yep.
Or are they still on board?
Yep.
I would say those two are the ones that I pretty much, well, and then the usual news ones,
Yes.
you know.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
A really, really great accountant.
Totally agree.
And if you need an accountant, you let me know.
Great.
No, Philip is the name of my accountant. And I can't tell you how many times a day I always say, I don't know, just ask Philip. Like, it's like learning what you thrive at and what you're like, no, I'm being the rock in the road again here. I don't know.
And play to your strengths.
Just ask Philip. Yeah.
Finally, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
Okay, my first answer in my head was breathe. Again, I know I keep going back to this, but it's patience. I think I would have told myself on day one, breathe.
Yeah.
And take your time.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't think that success is going to happen overnight for you. And what does that success even look like when you're creating a new business from scratch that you have nothing to compare it to, and you have no mentors or anyone to bounce this idea off of because no one's ever done it before?
Yep.
So I would say, patience. And I know it sounds strange, but I have an action journal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you are familiar with them.
They're really,
so you write like all of your to-dos here and things, but then back burner.
Yep.
And in the back burner portion, I always write something that inspired me or something that I wanted to remember or think of in the future. But right now, my focus was just, in launching a business.
Yep.
And I wish it's not journaling because it's an action business book, but I wish I had done that more so that I could reflect in 2016 ideas or thoughts or innovations or things that I had thought about that I have completely forgotten, you know, so many years later. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for your time today, Kalynn. I think it's a brilliant idea and initiative and business that you're at the forefront of this movement, and I hope it does spread across the world and some people reach out from listening to this cast, and anyone's keen to talk more. I think that'd be fabulous, and I think the audience get a lot of value out of what we've discussed today. So thank you.
Yes, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I do mean it for your listeners. I'm not interested in franchising, but if you do want to start this kind of business on your own, please do feel free to reach out on our website, which is just rebloomflowers.ca, and I will be in touch with you and we can go from there. But really, truly, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.